This is an experiment on my DC power supply. I have two of them, and they're going to be used to feed the filaments for the 4400s. Right now I'm running the 4400 at full readings, what I expect to be running. 7.6 volts. I don't expect to go any higher than that. And that's controlled by a 24 volt power supply, which is interlocked to the power supply. I put a divider string in there with a relay, so when I turn off the 24 volt power supply, simply by unplugging it, you'll see that the tube gets a little dimmer and the voltage falls down. So this is the coasting voltage for normal operation, and when I transmit, I intend to go to this level, and you can see the difference it makes on the intensity of the filament. This is 7.6 volts, and this is the coasting voltage, 5.46. Now 5.46 is measured at the terminals. Now this is number 10 gauge wire, but there's going to be some drop in there, so it's going to be slightly less at the tube. But the idea is to see if I can't heat up the filaments and drive the tubes a little hotter, just to make the emissivity higher. So in other words, I can get full power out of old 4400s. These things are rather long in the tooth. This happens to be one of the lowest rated tubes I have. I used a heater supply and a high voltage supply to measure the current on each of my tubes, and I ranked them. This one here was one of the lowest. Hot. This one here is rated at 50 milliamps. So with a 1000 volt power supply on the plate and normal filament voltage, I only got 50 milliamps of current through that tube. So it says that the filament emission's down quite a bit when you're running at this level here. So that's my experiment. Little 30 amp DC power supply from eBay and a 24 volt control, which is going to feed the signal to both of the supplies. They've both been modified with a little pot on there so I can adjust the upper and lower limits. And at this point I'm going to run it about 5.5 volts and about 7.6 to see what the difference is. Do some testing. I did charting a while ago, and you can see quite a dramatic change in the current coming off the cathode, the filament, with temperature change. And because I'm not running it at this voltage all the time, I think it should last. I tried driving the filaments with 12 volts off of a car battery to rethoriate the tungsten, but I got minimal results out of that. It improved it some, but even with 12 volts on the filament from a car battery, and that's probably 40 amperes, it didn't improve the filaments enough to really merit the effort. So I'm going after a DC power supply, and I'll have two of these on here, and they'll be oppositely connected so that the tubes don't have a bias on them. The tubes in a Thunderbolt transmitter are fed with 5 volts AC, and each tube is fed with a tube filament opposite the other one, so that they balance each other on the 60 cycles. With a DC power supply I shouldn't have a problem, but I'm still going to maintain a sense of polarity on each filament so that the tubes are driven more or less evenly. Might even get less hum, who knows. Enjoy N4MQ.